President Trump is sure behaving like someone who believes that he's in a lot of trouble. And we've not really seen that before. So how much trouble is he in actually? Well, let's discuss. At first glance, it is the weirdest contradiction, drawn from an era where the old political rules seem to have completely broken down. As a candidate for president, first time around, Donald Trump was revealed to be someone who used his power to sexually harass and abuse women. I mean, we had the confession, in his own words, caught on tape, talking about how when you're famous, you can do whatever you want, grab women wherever you want. And he was making a big joke out of it. We had him taken to court and found guilty for sexual assault. We had him paying off a porn star. None of it was out of sight or subtle in the slightest. And you had candidate Trump, who basically shrugged it off, laughed it off, and otherwise let it be known that he didn't care about what people thought of him. And it worked. He kept the support of his base. He kept the support of his specifically Christian base. Around 80% of evangelicals voted for him in each of the elections. They shrugged. They made excuses for him. They said, "We don't like that, but..." And by a whisker, he won the 2016 election and he won the 2024 election. All the rules about what would normally count as a scandal that would sink a political candidate seem to have been suspended, if not outright abolished. While some people were getting cancelled online for a tweet with an ill-advised joke they made when they were 18 or something like that, Trump was sailing on. Nothing would stick to him. And yet, here we are today. Nothing associated with the Epstein case that has credibility brings new allegations that were not known and discounted in the past. But now it's different. Now Trump is rattled, thoroughly on the defensive. Whereas before he shrugged and just carried on with whatever he wanted to be talking about, now he can't stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the accusations made about his role within that whole scandal. He tried to use his authority to bring his supporters to heel, lashed out at them, derided them as weaklings, made the bizarre claim that the Epstein files, if they existed at all, had been written by former FBI Director James Comey and Barack Obama and probably Joe Biden as well, except if it was done with AutoPen, did it really count? Sorry, getting conspiracy theories mixed up there. Suddenly saying this was a Democrat playbook was bizarre, yes. To be fair, no more bizarre than alleging that Haitian immigrants were eating cats and dogs, and normally he could just say stuff like that, and his people would line up behind it. But apparently not this time, so what changed? It comes down ultimately to Trump's identity as a populist. The basic positioning for such a politician is that the elites are all out of touch at best, more likely totally corrupt. I am an outsider. I am for you. Elect me as the trusted champion who will go in and break up all the cozy clubs, expose all the rackets, break it all apart, put it back together clean. Populists tend to be rubbish because they propose easy answers to complex problems and then unsurprisingly fail to deliver on their promises. In this case, Trump the populist jumped onto conspiracy theories because, one, they were also about the untrustworthiness and nefariousness of the elites, so therefore useful, and two, they were extremely powerful and had a passionate sub-community of people whose lives were pretty much dominated by them, so quite useful. What could possibly go wrong? Well, the leaders of the French Revolution could have told him exactly what could go wrong. The problem is, when you're running a revolution which is anti the elites, dedicated to tearing down all the institutions, in the process you take charge. From that point onwards, you're always running the heightened risk of becoming the new face of the hated elites, the revolutionaries who sold out. So here was Trump. They knew that he'd been a good buddy with Epstein in the past. They knew that they were both into using power to push women into sleeping with them. They didn't mind that much, might be seen as distasteful. not yet illegal, not yet nefarious. And Trump had been distant enough from Epstein once the criminality became an unmistakable part of the experience that the conspiracy theorists could persuade themselves that none of it actually stuck to him. But if there was any revolutionary who had to be careful once taking office not to get tarred with the same brush he'd been using against those he'd deposed, it was Trump, specifically in relation to this story. Now, that was all perfectly manageable, you would think, except that Pam Bondi of the DOJ, following a Trump-style playbook, ironically, dramatised and promised releases to come. And except that Trump squirmed visibly when asked questions about it and started talking about being ultra careful not to malign innocent people with any release that was made. A carefulness and concern that has typified exactly zero of his previous activities. And then the declaration that then such files actually didn't exist. Having bigged up their existence, suddenly, nowhere to be seen. Suddenly it's all a plot by the Democrats. Suddenly they don't exist and they were written by Obama and James Comey. Give it another day or two, George Soros will probably emerge and maybe Bill Clinton. After all, the first time Trump reposted something on the Epstein files, it was because someone had alleged that there was something in it that stuck to Bill Clinton. So, MAGA has its bullshit meter heavily engaged now. I mean, we didn't think they even had one, but it was used predominantly in service of the things that they want to believe. So long as they wanted to believe that Trump was the whiter than white saviour, the man to rescue the cats and the dogs, and indeed the American-born citizens' jobs from the immigrants, then it didn't ping at all. But now, in service of this treasured belief that the Epstein case was all about the worst depravity of the worst elites, then it's well and truly engaged. And Trump has realised that a good portion of his absolute core support, a minority maybe, but an incredibly important, vocal, influential minority, is in danger of reframing him forever in their minds as one of those hated elites. They will decide they made a category error. Rather than being the solution, Trump is actually, just another part of the problem. If they do that, all the other stuff they've been ignoring, that would have had them marching in the streets if the other side had done it, the silencing of dissent, the creation of a massive ICE army to take people off the streets, masked and unidentified, those things might start to seem very different to how they'd seen them before. More to the point, Trump's dream of being remembered as a great president whose self-enrichment kind of gets overlooked because he made America great again, that could go very sour indeed. Now, does this mean that Trump is actually guilty of the same sort of crimes that Jeffrey Epstein was guilty of? Not the trafficking, but the underage abusing. Right now, there is no evidence that he is. We, of course, have solid evidence of what we knew already. He's been a grade A sleazebag. He's crossed the line into criminality a number of documented times, behaving like a predator and an obnoxious bully as a businessman as well, by the way. Things that would have gotten any other human being held to be instantly disqualified from standing for office. But the truth remains important. And the fact that a lot of what has been circulated on this topic in the last couple of years, particularly since the rise of generative AI, funnily enough, has been fake. So this picture of Trump supposedly dancing with a girl on Epstein's island, AI generated. This one of Trump surrounded by girls on a plane, which people quickly presumed might be Jeffrey Epstein's jet. Again, fake. The irony is, just on the balance of probabilities, it's quite likely there's nothing relating to Epstein to be revealed that would go beyond the things that have previously been known about Donald Trump and shrugged off. But the thing is, conspiracies don't run on evidence. That made them attractive to Trump before. But what now? Well, what if the association with the conspiracy means that things that his own people discounted in the past now get reframed to actually become as damning as they probably ought to have been the first time round? Suppose that happens in good time to influence the outcome of the midterm elections solidly enough but all the gerrymandering and fixing in the world won't get them out of it. Then you will have a lame-duck president, watching his MAGA movement tearing itself apart, with the vengeful betrayed on one side, tearing into the Trump personality cult loyalists on the other. And then a bunch of candidates who had been hopeful of being the 2028 victorious MAGA standard bearer. They'll be watching on in despair as the platform on which they'd hoped to stand falls like a house of cards. Because it is, remember, built on conspiracy theories and lies. You think that's going to be a solid foundation? Maybe after a decade, with a full-on authoritarian state built on top of it. But they cannot build that in 6 months, and it may well be that they will never get the opportunity. This, it seems to me, is what Trump fears most of all, from how all of this is apparently spinning out of his control. It's why, for the very first time, he is on the back foot. Does he realise that there's nothing now he can do? So he's instructed Pam Bondi to release the grand jury transcripts, if the court approves. Well, is he hoping the court won't approve? Then he can blame them. Won't help. Is he hoping that the transcripts will be released and they don't say anything at all about him? So it's all going to go away. Yeah, but it won't. For someone who was quick to ride on the back of conspiracy theories, he really has no idea how they work, if he thinks either of those things. They will not be quieted, not until the full Epstein files are released. And if they are, regardless of what's not in them, that will reflect badly because they've been saying they didn't even exist. If they aren't because, say, they don't actually exist, then it doesn't matter what other material gets released. The core believers will still continue to think the truth is being hidden from them. Donald Trump, agent of the deep state, will have been revealed, and that will taint the way that they frame every other single thing that happens and everything that goes wrong over the coming 3 years. So yeah, Donald Trump is in trouble. His first 6 months will be the highest point he will ever have as President of the United States. From now on, it just gets messier and messier.